Hey, this is Derek Evans, welcoming you to the Seen and Heard podcast, where in our very first episode, we're going to discuss the newest Wolverine movie, Logan, our thoughts on it, and the effect we think it might have on the whole superhero genre. If you choose to listen, you'll get spoilers for all the X-Men movies, including the Wolverine movies and Deadpool. So proceed with caution. Thanks for listening. Okay, my name is Derek Evans, here with
Chris Miller.
and we're here to talk about Logan today, the newest rated R Wolverine movie to be added to the Fox's X-Men cinematic universe, more or less.
It's the third in a trilogy of Wolverine movies, and Hugh Jackman's ninth and final appearance as Wolverine, which is kind of a big deal for a lot of people. A lot of people were like disappointed in the first. A lot of people hate the first movie. I don't hate the first movie, which might cause people not to listen to this podcast from this point on.
The first movie was Origins, right?
Yeah, X-Men Origins Wolverine.
I'll just go ahead and say I have not seen all the X-Men. I've seen X1, I've seen a little bit of X2, and I saw Deadpool, which is not. I don't know if it's like as far as continuity tied in or not. I don't know. It's like legally thrown together, but
it's the whole. You gotta watch Days of Future Past, and then you're still going to be confused about the timelines after you see Days of Future Past, but you'll maybe get a little bit better of a grasp of the movie. But I think a lot of people hated Origins because of how it portrayed Deadpool. Like, I feel like that's kind of the main reason, because they got Deadpool so wrong.
I've seen pictures. I've read a lot about him. I haven't seen him, but they sewed Deadpool's mouth shut.
Yeah, they sewed it shut, and then he had like swords that came out of his arms, and he shot laser rays out of his eyes.
So he's like all the mutants?
Basically, kind of? All the mutants. He was ugly, so they got that part of Deadpool right.
Did he survive? Was he like a character in the second Wolverine at all, or they kind of forgot about him?
No, he got his head chopped off, but he's Deadpool, so I don't know if they were planning on doing anything, like if he was going to come back with his mouth not sewn shut, or...
Maybe they were, and... they just saw the people hated his guts.
I don't know. I just know that, like, I would say that of all the Wolverine movies, this is the one that Logan is the one that people are least divided over on whether or not that they enjoyed it or not.
Oh, from what I've seen, it's pretty universally praised.
Yeah, it's super good.
First impressions, like, I've seen this movie once about 2 weeks ago. You've seen it?
I've seen it 2 times now. I saw it with you a couple weeks ago, and then I saw it pretty soon after it came out. I love the Wolverine movies. I grew up watching the X-Men movies and the Wolverine movies, so I was really excited when this one came out. And I loved Origins when it came out. Then again, I was tiny when I saw that movie, but so I just grew up with them, and objectively I can see how a lot of people didn't like those movies, but I always enjoyed them. So I went in expecting this to be a fun movie, like maybe a little campy, like some of the other X-Men movies.
Like Batman, the early Batman movies I've seen are...
No, nothing's quite that campy. This movie, though, was...
You don't have to put blinders on.
No, it was just a well-made movie.
So you would say probably thumbs up?
Yeah. I cried.
You did cry?
Both times.
Both times?
Yes.
I didn't even see you crying the second time.
I hit it better the second time.
Wait, are you being serious?
Yeah.
You really did?
No, I was crying.
Oh, I want to see it after watching the rest of the X-Men movies, because I feel like I would have cried. Like, it seemed really well put together, but I mean, I'd only seen 1.5 movies worth of Professor X, so I mean...
Honestly, I feel like it redeems some of the older ones a little bit, because you see the story of this guy that has just kind of like been a loner his whole life, and really, like the X-Men kind of gave him a home, but really he's been alone.
Even amongst the X-Men.
Yeah, even amongst the X-Men he was alone, and it's been a theme in the movies, sort of, that he kind of wants to die in some way, but he can't. He's just kind of living this sort of...
He's immortal. His own...
Yeah.
It's like his curse with his mutant... mutation.
Yeah, but just you see Logan find something to live for, but then he like dies. And it just doesn't pull any punches from that, but it also is like this. You see him finally sort of come to a place where he accepts like I don't know, he just finds something.
Um, I mean, I've only seen one PG-13 X-Men movie, but from what I've seen, even more than like counting cuss words or like the amount of blood and gore, the fact that he really uses his claws like I feel he hasn't before. Like thematically, the restricted rating allowed it to show some of the stuff that it probably wouldn't have. I mean, I'm not to say they wouldn't have tried. I mean, they've tried a lot of stuff, but I feel like it was a lot better executed than it would have been potentially if it was PG-13. If it was a kids movie.
Yeah.
This wasn't at all a kids movie.
Yeah. It it made the effect of like because you could see like the scars and there was even blood around like his claws
Yeah,
when
the
his
pus.
claws would come out. Yeah. And it didn't pretty things up at all whatsoever. Like in all the old X-Men movies and even you've seen the first one, you see what Logan does out of frame. Like nobody ever gets chopped up in this movie is like
he just slides you off the picture.
Yeah.
And then you die.
Yeah. Like if you go out of frame with Logan,
All you ever really see him do with his claws is like just flip off Cyclops.
Yeah.
That's all I ever saw.
And then growl. He basically just would like
Grunts.
front and yeah. I mean unless like you were wearing a bunch of body armor and he stabbed you or something, but you would never see like what it actually meant. And I think it just felt like it made him scarier in some ways, but it also made him more sympathetic because you just think, man, that would hurt to have those claws like come out of you and stuff. And then like how much it would hurt him to hurt those people at the same time. Like you could tell how much it bothered him what he was doing, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah, especially, I mean, we talked about this after we watched the movie, but I mean, if you look at the timeline, and I mean, I haven't seen it, but I understand a lot of what goes on in the movies. After Days of Future Past, his consciousness goes back and like relives a lot of his life. To where, I mean, as old as his body is, several hundred years old, his consciousness is even older, so he's been killing people for a long time.
Yeah.
And you see it finally catch up to him. Like in the first scenes, he never intended to kill the thugs who were trying to like loot his future limo.
His limo.
But and at the same time, he's kind of lost direction in the fact that, I mean, I don't know.
He's basically, I mean, that's kind of the impression that I got, that he was a chauffeur driving, kind of like sort of like almost like, I think somebody called him like an Uber driver, is basically what he was doing, is driving people around in this fancy limo.
29 Uber.
Yeah. I liked how they were futuristic, but not really.
It wasn't like Back to the Future 2 or something.
No, but it was a future that I feel like the future could look like that. I mean, like the automated semis and
the animated billboards and that kind of thing.
Yeah, stuff like that I thought was really cool. But also just, I love how that was in the future, but I love like when people can mix Western and future. Like it makes me think of, like Firefly, just in the fact of it's like that futuristic, but it's also kind of a Western. And you have that sort of loner vibe to it in the future.
It's like music. I mean, it takes the best of genres. I mean, you create something new.
Yeah.
Like, even as going back to his limo and that, I mean, it all fits in to part of him as much as it's, and whether or not you want to call it a superhero movie, it's a road trip movie through and through.
Yeah.
Like, that's a theme. He's moving forward up until the end. Like he has his whole life.
Yeah.
He's driving, and then he's done at the end.
What I think, too, what we see, the opening picture, I think we see more character development for him in this movie than we've seen in any X-Men movie whatsoever. Because I think you start out with him sort of living this life that is not him. Like, Logan's not meant to be in a suit driving a fancy car. And that's how he starts out. Like, he starts out in this, like, fancy suit. And he's getting the crap beat out of him, and he's beating the crap out of other people and stuff.
He's sleeping in his own car,
Yeah, but like,
which is really fun.
yeah,
But
it is fun. But he's like, he starts out in this car and he's like sleeping in this car, but it's like this fancy limo, and he's in this fancy suit and he's driving around all these uh, big shot people and prom people and all these other people. Insert, boob scene with the girl, which I gotta say, the first time I saw Logan, I saw it with my mom, and when the first word that came out of his mouth was the F word, I was like, oh, this might be a little bit uncomfortable. And then when that scene happened, it was very uncomfortable. But after that,
I feel like it got better.
Oh yeah,
As far as watching with your parent status.
yeah,
And to speak as to what you were saying about kind of like a new way of looking at Wolverine, I can't speak as to his previous character development in movies, but the way Fox has done their universe, like almost like you don't know what to expect. It's like a TV episode. I mean, not in a bad way, but like you almost like it's not like what is it with the Marvel universe, the MCU. Everyone's so like obsessed with looking at the history and like what's going to be happening at the beginning of each movie.
yeah,
With this one, it's almost like liberating because it's like, okay, in this movie, Wolverine is a cab driver and he's dealing with this.
yeah,
I mean, and it clearly is takes place in some of the universe that we've seen so far,
yeah.
but they don't find themselves restricted by it at all. They do what they want, and that was a good thing, I think.
And well, I would say to a certain extent, but sometimes they're not so much with Logan, but sometimes just the fact that the Marvel movies have been the Fox's Marvel universe has so many plot holes and like inconsistency. Sometimes it's not even funny, and like all the actor changes and like Magneto is a completely different character
In every movie.
and well, he was concise in the original three, but then you get past that and it's like, are you even the same thing? Because Days of Future Past really just kind of intentionally or unintentionally begins a whole new style and feel of the X-Men, of all those characters.
And whether or not you like Age of Apocalypse, which I hear has mixed reception, I mean, I feel like it's a step up from some of the old Wolverine movies and from X3 and stuff, at least in quality, maybe.
I don't know. The blue guy in the trailer lost me. I haven't been able to bring myself to watch that one.
You haven't?
No.
I haven't either, but...
He looks like...
He
Have you seen Mighty Morphin Power Rangers?
The one that came out just a few months ago?
No, the original movie, like the old movie.
I watched the show, but I never watched the movie.
Well, there's the bad guy in the movie. I'll have to show you, but when he came out and he looked just like the bad. I can't remember what the bad guy's name was, but he like came out with his evil slime that was like when he looked exactly like the bad guy in a Power Rangers movie, and you're in a multi-million-dollar X-Men movie.
And he's such a great actor too. I mean, I don't. His name escapes me, but I know he played Poe Dameron, the Starfighter, and the new Star Wars, The Force Awakens, and he was awesome in that.
Yeah.
And I know he plays other good roles, and I mean, like I said, I haven't seen the movie, but it seems like he was wasted.
It just seems like that whole character was wasted. He looked like a Star Trek alien.
As big as he was
from the old Star Trek,
from the
like
show.
The bad Star Trek.
I watched the cartoons, and he was like, I mean, as much as they fought with humans and each other, he was like, kind of like the big guy. As far out of left field as he was.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it could have been good. I probably should watch it. Maybe I will, if I can't think of anything else to watch. But X-Men movies are kind of. I'm more of a fan of the Wolverine movies just because I love that character so much, and Wolverine as a character in general.
He has a lot of ideas to him that I feel like aren't explored, but like, I mean, just the idea of like being able to heal and that kind of thing. It's not something that many other movies can like explore.
Yeah, but I also feel like he's the most. He carries around the most hurt of any of those characters. Like, he's just such an interesting character. It's kind of cool, and really the first trilogy kind of really tells. Those are really Wolverine movies with some extra characters, really.
The first I saw the first one at least definitely is.
Yeah, and then you have X-Men Origins Wolverine, and then you have the Wolverine, and then you have Logan, which sort of tell all their own stories. X-Men or the Wolverine is sort of a continuation of the Wolverine character from the events of The Last Stand, which I enjoyed. That had some cheesy moments too, but he's just cool. Like you can't.
No, you can't
He's just
say
cool.
you don't like Wolverine.
Yeah.
As much as you might be a hipster or something.
I don't know.
Everybody.
Don't be a jerk. Just admit the fact that Hugh Jackman as Wolverine is cool. Like, he's awesome.
He's the Robert Downey Jr. I think of the Fox Marvel stuff.
He's just his attitude fits that character so good. Except for his height, which is obviously, he's tall and Wolverine's short.
He's like 5'6" in the comics, I think.
And they do character or like camera tricks. Like they would literally have to shoot him at different angles and stuff to try to make him look shorter.
And this movie, they didn't even try.
I don't think they did.
Which is, I'm not complaining. Like the scene where he with the farmer's house and the whatever you want to call them, the fellow farmer thugs come up, and he's just like getting there, and you're like, dang, you never, or I hadn't really seen like how massive, like he is in this movie up until that scene.
Yeah, he's
almost bigger than Hugh Jackman. In this movie.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I just I think Hugh Jackman does such a good job of embodying like just that.
He created a character almost.
Yeah.
I mean, as much as it is Wolverine, it's like Hugh Jackman's Wolverine.
Yeah, his own, just in the same way that a different writer would have his own take on the Wolverine. I think Hugh Jackman has such a definitive like take on the Wolverine, and I don't think anybody would, or the majority of people wouldn't argue that he's done a good job as Wolverine. I think some of the movies have had issues with writing and story and things like that, but I think his portrayal has always been spot on.
So is there any themes or like ideas or scenes in the movie that made you think or like related to you, like stood out?
Yeah, it's a definitely, both times I saw it made me think about different things. Like I mentioned before, how he started out in this fancy suit with this really nice limo, but as the movie progresses, like he ends up in tank tops and ratty clothes, and he ends up driving like rattier and rattier cars, and it's almost like the cars symbolize his own physical condition. As he gets worse and worse, he ends up driving cars that are,
he's driving himself to the end.
Yeah, crappier and crappier. And then you end up with the definitive Wolverine in the tank top and with the weird,
with his mutton chops or whatever you call them.
His awesome Wolverine beard that only the Wolverine can have. Yeah. I love that, and I love the idea of just this guy that is like afraid of a family or having anybody to care about. And it's like that scene where he's in the room with Laura and they're about to cross the thing, and he's wanting to leave, and he said, I didn't take the money. Like, what more do you want from me? And it's like he's scared of what would happen if he were to acknowledge her as his daughter and like go with her. There's just a bunch of stuff like that. The scene that really got me, of course, was the scene where she was dying and she's calling him Daddy, and he's telling her this is what it feels like, which made me think about.
Which that was really well written.
Yeah,
I feel like.
And he had a family, and then there was a connection of the Western that Patrick.
Which I'll come out and say I felt like that was a weak point. I mean, as much as like the movie felt Western, like it seemed like just like a passing thing they were watching it, and I mean maybe if I had seen the Western movie they were talking about in the movie, like that she was quoting, but it was kind of like what when she started repeating the scene
from the Western.
Yeah. What do you think?
I thought it was interesting. I thought it was interesting that because I thought it was a culmination of uh
Like what she was going through.
yeah, Charles. I said Patrick earlier. It's Charles, but Charles Charles's impact on her, and then Logan's impact on her, and to have her saying words from the movie that she had watched with Charles at Logan's funeral, I thought was just kind of an interesting scene, and when he said that when Logan said at the water tower. When the guys were pointing guns, that he hates guns, and her saying there's no more guns in the valley, I thought was kind of an interesting take. The thing that I honestly think my favorite, I love the whole movie, but I think my favorite part, and I think it might just be because I'm a huge Johnny Cash fan, was after that scene when they started playing When the Man Comes Around. At the end, I just thought perfectly, like,
Which
tied
that
everything
fit.
in.
That fit really good.
It fit the theme. It fit everything. I thought it was awesome. Did you have any thoughts or ideas or anything that stuck out to you?
Mine echoed yours pretty good. A lot of the same things you were saying as far as like, I mean, it plays up like Logan or Wolverine's like transformation, like as far as his ideas, like from wanting nothing more than to go out on a boat and die.
Yeah.
Than to like, I mean, sacrificing himself, which I mean is something he's never done before.
Yeah.
Like ultimately sacrificing his last self for a girl that he never wanted anything to do with.
Yeah.
Like that was really well thought out.
And
but
he tries to leave her behind.
He tries
for like the whole first half of the movie. He's trying to leave her behind. Charles is like the girl, and
he's like, he wouldn't have if Charles wasn't there.
No, but Laura would be gone.
But I don't know who the actor was for Laura X-23, but she did really good. I like what they did with her, because I mean it was a theme of the movie, but it wasn't something they played up overtly as much as like how she changed.
Yeah.
Because I mean more than just being like probably mentally unstable from being like essentially tortured from birth. She wasn't looking for a family either.
Yeah.
She wasn't even looking for like friends. Like she just wanted to have her cereal in the beginning.
Yeah.
She was ready to kill those guys, and eventually like especially once they got to the water tower and after they'd been on the road for a little while, she had grown to want him as a family like he had grown to want her.
Yeah, they sort of like grew or came closer together throughout the events of the movie.
I don't know if they're going to make X-23 or Laura, whatever her last name is going to be.
Yeah.
Movies about her. But if they are, this is a really good, I think, origin story.
For sure.
Like, I felt they did that really well.
Yeah. Her character was, however they shot, I've never been more scared of a little girl.
Oh, that was hardcore.
That wasn't in a horror movie. Because she wasn't like a horror movie little girl, but she just was so like...
gave you the chills. Nothing unrealistic. I mean, once you suspend your disbelief that
claws are coming out of their arms.
That he has the ability to heal and stuff, and that Charles has the psychic abilities. I mean, it's very well done. There's nothing that's like you have to stretch. Like, as scary as it is, it's scary because you know that's how it would be. Yeah. Like that the little girl is cutting off those guys' heads.
So serious question. Yes. So the blade or claw or whatever comes out of her foot.
Comes out of her foot, yeah.
Yeah. What toe did that come out of?
I'm pretty sure that it
like does she have 3 toes that are conjoined into one?
Comes out of the middle toe.
Because I didn't get how that big claw came. It looked like it came out of her shoe, which I guess it did.
I feel like it came out. Serious answer.
Okay.
I feel like it came out of in between.
Ooh,
I guess
her
pointer and ring toe. I mean, if you're using fingers.
Maybe she only has 3 toes. Maybe she only has like a big toe.
Like a ninja turtle.
Yeah. Maybe she only has her big toe and her ring toe. I don't know. Her pinky toe. Maybe that's where the blade came out of.
Right out at the bottom.
But ooh, that would suck. I bet she cut her toes all. I bet that's why that only came out like one time. Because
it came out a bunch actually.
I
Yeah.
probably should watch it again then. Kind of going on, do you think there should be a continuation then? Do you think that there should be another Wolverine, both another continued story arc of Laura, and do you think there should be another actor that comes in to take on the role in the X-Men universe?
I definitely don't think they should continue portraying the character of James Howard or whatever as Wolverine in the X-Men universe. I wouldn't be opposed to them adding Logan into the MCU. I think it would have to be done very, very carefully and very deliberately.
Yeah.
I'm not sure whether they want to give him an origin or somehow explain why they haven't mentioned him, but I'm not one of those people who's super pushing for it. I don't think that the X-Men have to join the MCU. I'm okay with them being separate. I feel like it'd be, as far as a Laura X-23 movie, I feel like it'd be hard to make a whole movie with anytime soon with her being a little girl. I mean, as well as she did, I don't know how well she'd be able to carry a movie as a main character.
Yeah.
If they wanted to wait until she was a teen or adult even, or something along those lines, I think it could
tie that character in with further X-Men storylines. Be kind of interesting. Which I
that
guess
almost resolved in this movie, yeah.
Yeah.
Which,
never mind.
Side note, I mean, it indicated pretty, I guess, implicitly that it was Wolverine's adamantium that was poisoning him to death.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it also was up to interpretation that they talked about the corn, like corn syrup or whatever.
Yeah.
How the one scientist stopped the mutant gene through the distribution of his poison corn syrup or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you think that it was meant that that's what's killing Wolverine, possibly, and what's messing up Professor X, giving him seizures and stuff? Or do you think that matters even?
Well, that was kind of, because there are mutants in the movie. The only three that we see really are
Wolverine, Professor
X, and the albino.
His name, I don't know.
I think he called him, I don't know.
It's like Caliban or something.
Yeah, Caliban. That's right. But
and the new clone mutants.
Yeah, but the only mutants that we see that weren't raised in a lab. I didn't quite understand the difference between the three mutants being Logan, Charles, and Caliban, and the rest of the mutants, and what set the three of them apart from all the other mutants that died or weren't being born anymore. Because it's only 20 years, so I imagine the Westchester effect wiped out just the X-Men or all the mutants, or is the corn syrup why?
Well, my understanding was that Caliban, if that's his name, was not with the mutants when this happened, and supposedly Charles's first seizure, the Westchester incident, killed all the mutants save Wolverine, because I mean, whether it's his adamantium skull or his healing factor, he somehow was able to survive it and sedate Professor X like we see him do.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, maybe that's why the mutants died and the rest of everybody else didn't, because maybe they didn't have sedation ready or something. I mean, this is a lot of suppositions. But, and then, so that leaves Professor X and Wolverine, and then they come and, later on meet Caliban. Which maybe, I feel like maybe there may have been dialogue that contradicts that or supports that. I don't really remember a lot of the words they said. I wasn't really understanding what was happening that early on in the movie.
But the director has been pretty adamant about the fact that that's not even, he was purposefully vague about a lot of that stuff.
Kind of leaving open to interpretation.
Yeah, and I think he really just wanted people to focus not so much on why things were the way that they were, but more on the characters and what the characters are going through.
What happens in the movie.
Yeah, in the actual movie.
Which worked well.
I was really into watching the character development of Logan, and just, it was such a character-driven story. I mean, there wasn't even that many
things that happened, yeah.
Yeah, there wasn't even that many action scenes, but you were kept riveted on what was happening with the characters and what they went through and things like that, which I thought were cool. So what do you think this means for future superhero movies?
I mean,
in any universe, Marvel,
any universe.
Fox, any universe, maybe even DC.
DC. I feel like DC is so far out there, whether that's good or bad.
Yeah.
They're probably not even watching these movies. But I mean, they are, I'm sure. But
Yeah.
well, the optimist in me is more excited for the potential that I mean, movies can be taken. I mean, the rated R movies, what you think about them, it seems like they're more following the source material, not
Yeah.
necessarily for the source material's sake, but they're what they are, like whatever character that is. Almost like it seems like because they're lower budget movies and they're not kids movies, they're not targeted for like the super biggest audience.
Yeah.
They're able to have, I feel like the directors and stuff, they have more control over the movie, so
Yeah.
it's more what it's meant to be. There's less studio meddling and that kind of thing. So the optimist in me is excited for that maybe happening more, and I understand why they can't do that in such a regimented, or at least not to this extent, in such a regimented setup as like the MCU, just because they're so like they're doing what they're doing, you know?
Yeah.
Like, they have a universe to
They're owned
consider.
by Disney, too. Disney's not going
to go hands off.
Disney's not going to have movies that the first word are the F-bomb.
But, the cynic in me is probably going to say that, there will probably be more movies along these lines.
Yeah.
That are, whether that's going to be X-Force, if they can still do that. I mean, I don't know if they can do that without Wolverine. Or, I know MCU, they said they're not going for rated R. But, I feel like DC definitely, if they are paying attention to this, if they want to make a Batman origin movie that is, rated R, or not even rated R, but just, as open, like, in themes and, like, what they want to do, they can definitely, take cues from this.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like this is not necessarily laying the groundwork, but, more of this along with other movies like it is like proving, hey, you can do this and it'll work.
Yeah. And I think it shows like that they didn't necessarily try to make it for this huge audience. They made it they told a good story. And that's kind of my thing is if you're going to make a movie, tell a good story. And it wasn't unnecessarily rated R. I mean, the R rating was definitely necessary, but
it didn't feel forced either.
Yeah,
that like, as much as it was probably deserved, it wasn't like R for R's sake. There wasn't like unnecessary.
Yeah, that was what Deadpool was, which
may not have worked.
It definitely worked for them. They made a ton of money off Deadpool. You know, it was a good movie. But no, this movie was so good, not because it was rated R, but just because they told a good story, and I think that the R rating was necessary for this story.
Yeah.
I think it wouldn't have hit as well had it been rated PG-13 and they weren't able to show everything that they showed.
That stuff happening to a little girl.
Yeah, and just because it hit you hard, and it drove some of the deeper themes of the story home when you saw everything that was happening right in front of you like that.
Yeah, I agree.
But on the other end of the spectrum, you know, I think, as, you know, I kind of touched on a little bit, but I would hate to see them making R-rated movies just for the sake of it's rated R and making a story unnecessarily gritty and unnecessarily, like, ridiculously over the top just for the sake of being ridiculously over the top.
Which I'm surprised we haven't seen yet. I mean, whether or not you think Batman v Superman, the original cut wasn't R. I didn't feel like the Ultimate Cut had to be rated R, although it was, and I mean it was I like the Ultimate Cut.
Yeah, I do too.
I felt like it was a pretty soft R. Yeah. Honestly. But I'm surprised we haven't seen as much, or I'm surprised we haven't seen more unnecessarily R superhero movies, to be honest. And I'm sure they will come over time.
And there are R-rated superhero movies that these are
Even
that
from
have
a long
been
time ago.
yeah, and they're making them that are not as popular, but it's in the popular movies. They're these big box office hits. So I think it's exciting to see what the direction. I think Fox is doing some cool stuff with their movies right now. And I know that they're talking about an R-rated Venom movie, right?
It looks freaking awesome. I feel like an R-rated version of a Venom movie definitely probably is deserved. Like I
Yeah.
feel like it's not gonna feel forced, and I'm scared about them splitting up the Spider-Man universe. I mean, I'm not sure how you're gonna have Venom without Spider-Man. I feel like it'll be stupid if they try,
Yeah.
but if they can pull it off, I feel like that's gonna be awesome.
And if it's my understanding, it's the Andrew Garfield
Oh,
universe,
really?
right? I think so. I think it's the Andrew Garfield version of Spider-Man that the Venom is in. I saw a video on it. It might have been wrong because I
Yeah,
watched the video on April 1st. So I don't know
Yeah,
if it's right or not.
I've heard that, and I've heard it's Tom Holland.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure, but
Tom Holland is not right for an R-rated
no,
superhero movie.
I agree.
Yeah. It's too he's too young to watch R-rated movies. Like that Spider-Man I just feel like should not he shouldn't watch Logan.
No, he's not young enough. Or he's not old enough to
I don't
have
think
a Venom yet.
I don't think his aunt or Tony Stark would be okay with him watching Logan.
Is there anything that stood out to you as like what or like maybe this doesn't make sense? Whether it's in the details or like a full part of the movie, like just anything come to your mind.
I wish I had known more about the villains. Just to have some sort of. I think I understand his purpose behind keeping us so in the dark about the villains.
Yeah.
But I feel like I would have been more into what was going on if I had known more about the backstory of behind the villains and what was driving the villain. You just don't really get to know a whole lot about them at all, and it's like you don't really. I didn't feel a whole lot when any of them died.
No. As cool as X-24 or the Wolverine clone was. They pulled that off really well.
Any other critiques or anything that you had?
I had a few problems. I talked about how I felt the like her quoting the country movie at the end. I'm not saying it was bad. It felt a little bit out of place. And like the found footage part when Logan
I forgot about that. That was pretty bad.
And it changes, like she's like narrating and then she's like talking into it like in a video.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, did she like go on iMovie and like create a movie for him to watch? But I mean, I could get that past that. It didn't pull me out too much.
Yeah.
I didn't even really realize how weird it was until afterward.
Yeah.
Which I guess means it's fine.
No, I get that. And part of me is I guess is like the nitpicky part of me is like
you gotta find something wrong with it.
Yeah, but it's like how did he get to this point after everything that he'd been through, after all the lessons he learned from all the other movies that he went through and all the other things, like how did he basically start right back from square one at the beginning of this movie? But I think it was all that was meant to happen for the story that they told. This is the most self-contained superhero movie, really.
I think you're right for being part of a franchise.
Yeah, that I've seen in a long time, because really it was just about Logan and Charles and stuff. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the X-Men movies are going to do, because I also want to know what happens to all the other characters. I
have two more critiques. I felt like the rest of the mutant kids, especially in the end, I mean, I felt like they were there for action's sake. I didn't feel like the movie would have been any less if they weren't there.
Yeah.
I mean, as much as they're probably, if they are trying to move forward with the X-Men universe from this movie, they probably were necessary just for the sake of future films.
Yeah.
I didn't think they were super necessary. Although I don't think they were bad. It was funny when they shaved his beard thing for him.
Yeah.
And one other thing I felt like it never did I really feel like it was forcing like its R rating down on you, except in the first scene when he's like driving to prom. I was like,
Oh, the boobs.
yeah, that wasn't
Yeah.
necessary.
No, that was not necessary. Which surprised me because that was a movie that was. I mean, they cut out so much. It's the movie with the least amount of unnecessary stuff. I mean, it's so not over the top at all.
No.
And then that happened, and I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, that felt a little forced. And what did you think about the comics?
I felt that actually really worked, especially like his like nihilistic like tendencies towards the beginning. Like
Yeah.
whether that supported it, it was really demonstrated it well. Him like brushing it off, saying like only a third of this happened and it didn't happen like this.
Yeah.
And he said in real life people die, and him like there is no mutant heaven. I know they didn't call it that. I forget what they called it in the movie.
Yeah.
What did they call it?
Eden.
Okay.
Or like a safe place, basically.
Yeah, there is no Eden in real world, how he believes, and I felt like that was a really good like tool to
Yeah.
like demonstrate like his like tendencies and like what he believed. I mean, whether or not it makes sense. And I understand that those aren't the same comics we have in our universe.
Yeah.
And it also felt really effective when at the end when they're burying him, that when you see the one little kid with the Wolverine
With the action figure.
with the action figure, it kind of like
Yeah.
it shows his legacy a little bit.
Yeah. And she turned the
Turns it into an
The
X.
cross to
That
an
was
X.
a little corny. I'm not.
yeah.
I liked it. I felt it worked, but it was the corniest part of the movie for me.
Yeah, well, I think he wasn't really an X-Men at that point in the movie. It wasn't an X-Men movie, it was a Wolverine movie.
It worked though. I'm not.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have taken it out if I was editing it.
Yeah, well, they didn't.
Yeah, and I didn't edit it.
Yeah. So
Or did I?
So what would your final score be then?
In the I don't know what phrase to use. Oh, in the interest of having room to go upward, I would give it 4 stars. And I'll preface that by saying I don't rate movies high if I don't really like them.
Yeah.
Like there's about, I can't think of a movie off the top of my head that I'll give 5 stars. So 4 stars is really, I really liked it to say it's 4 stars. 4 out of 5.
I'm gonna go ahead and go for 5 stars.
So you liked it.
It hit me. It hit me hard. I cried twice.
Maybe I would like it more, because I mean, it's not like it was ever anything to complain about.
Yeah.
It was just maybe I wasn't exposed enough to the universe and the characters beforehand.
Well, it's interesting because I read an article because this movie was released around the same time as a movie called The Shack, which is based off of a book about God, but the story of redemption and but also of what could have been had he realized some things sooner, and just some of the themes like that just left me thinking about. I thought about this movie for days after I watched it, and I saw it for a second time, and I thought about it for days after that, and sometimes I still think about some of the themes, and I haven't watched a movie in a long time that left me like thinking like that, and so
totally the sign of a good movie.
Yeah, so just for that, I'm giving it 5 stars. And all of my things that I had issues with, I understand why it was in there. It's kind of things like, I mean, at the end of the day, it's things that like, yeah, I had a friend who watched it and he said he didn't like it. He said objectively he thought it was a good movie, but it was so sad that he just wanted it to be over the whole time.
Which I guess I can understand that.
Yeah, it's not a feel-good movie.
No.
At all, whatsoever. It's actually kind of a feel-bad movie. But yeah, that's 5 out of 5 stars for me.
In conclusion, my name is Derek Evans. I gave the movie Logan 4 out of 5 stars. I really liked it. You can find me on Facebook at Derek Evans and Instagram at Derek_5150.
And I am Chris Miller, and I supremely enjoyed Logan as well, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. And you can follow me on Facebook at Chris Miller or on Instagram at Chris Miller 114. So, yeah.
Ba-da-ba. There we go. Well, thank you guys for listening. If you have any thoughts that you'd like to add, you should definitely go down to the comments and do that, where it's cool to read them and discuss ideas with other people. In the meantime, you could maybe like and subscribe, so you'll be on the lookout for a new episode, which we'll definitely be making about any kind of media that you see or hear. Until then, look and listen.